Hello and welcome to Digital Mindfulness. This is episode number 27. This episode of Digital Mindfulness is sponsored by Semantica Research, a leading digital advisory company helping communications, social media and marketing professionals make better, more informed decisions from digital data. Get insights on billions of digital conversations to manage your brand, reputation, and to understand your competition. Hello everybody and welcome to Digital Mindfulness, where we share insights, wisdom and tools to enhance the quality of your digitized life. I'm Lawrence Ampofo, and my guest today is Lucy Pearson. Lucy is the founder of the digital detoxing company Unplugged Weekend. Along with her co-founder, Lucy created the Unplugged Weekend while on retreat in the Sahara Desert. It was then that they both realized the benefits of taking time away from technology and created this amazing experience to help people get back into balance by providing this digital detox experience. I hope you enjoy this upcoming episode with Lucy Pearson. Okay, so Lucy, welcome to the Digital Mindfulness Show. Thank you so much for joining us today and talking about digital detoxing.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Lucy, what is the Unplugged Weekend and why is it so important?
Unplugged Weekend was set up about 2 years ago now by me and Vicky when we met on a different wellness retreat in the Sahara Desert. And it started off as retreat weekends in the UK. And it's basically a digital detox is where we take all your devices off you at the door on the Friday. And then over the weekend, you don't have any devices, no laptops, phones, tablets. And we put on a program of activities that help you to encourage interaction with other people, lots of creativity, lots of connection with the people around you, but also the surroundings, as we always hold it in a really beautiful place. And we help people to reconnect back with themselves. From the retreats, we've branched out into workshops. So we do workshops and talks for conferences and businesses. We do staff away days. And this year we worked on a festival as well, which was great fun. And that was with Innocent.
Oh, fantastic. So what inspired you to kind of come to this whole new area? Because like you say, it's people are becoming increasingly aware of the need to unplug from their digital devices. But what drew you in?
Well, as I said, I met Vicky in the middle of the desert in 2014, and the main thing that we took away from that experience, because it was quite an eye-opening experience being in the middle of nowhere for a week. One of the main things we realised is that we didn't have a mobile phone, and that was a big change for us because we weren't constantly looking at social media or having to reply to emails because we both had quite busy jobs. We didn't have to text anyone or respond to anybody, and we found that break from technology really gave us a chance to find out a lot more about ourselves.
And you're saying that when you do the work at the Unplugged Weekend, I'm just really interested, what goes on in an Unplugged Weekend?
Yeah, I suppose connecting with yourself, we believe, is one of the most important things and the first stepping stone into having a positive life and being successful in anything that you might choose to do. Especially now, as when we're alone, the first thing that we'll do is reach for our smartphone to see if there's something waiting for us or if we can reach out to someone on social media or email. And in many ways, that's preventing us from being able to be on our own and be with ourselves because we don't have to anymore. So at Unplugged Weekend, although there is a very strong group interaction and it is about being a community, a lot of people do spend time on their own. We obviously do a lot of yoga and meditation, and we do connectivity workshops, and also the creative activities help people to really focus on what they're doing and get into a meditative flow. Which is a really important way of connecting with yourself and just feeling your body, feeling what you're doing, appreciating where you are and what's around you. And we do workshops that focus on different senses and sensory interactions. So we're using our smell and our taste and our hearing, which are sometimes things that we forget about because everything's constantly being done on a screen.
Why? I mean, you've used the word a few times, like kind of like reconnecting people with themselves. That whole word of reconnecting. Like, why is it? Do you think that the way that we interact with our digital devices and the digitized world, why does that disconnect us from ourselves? Do you think?
Well, there's a few things. Talking about the self, I don't think a lot of the time digital devices don't really encourage much self love, especially on social media when you're constantly comparing yourself to other people or seeing what other people are doing. It can, whether you mean to or not, you can be quite judgmental and you can be worried that people are judging you. And I always tell the story. I knew somebody whose life I thought was amazing, and you should have seen his wedding pictures. They looked amazing, and then a month later, I found out that they were getting a divorce. And my first thought was, but what about the Instagram pictures? And a lot of the time, social media isn't a realistic reflection of real life, and I think people can get caught up in it, especially young people, and I think can be quite damaging. So from that point of view, I think and also, so one thing is that you may constantly be comparing yourself to people and living in a world that isn't representative of the real world. But also, when you're constantly being bombarded with demands from your device, you're not able to have much self-respect and take time for yourself because you feel the guilt that you have to reply. So I think that in many ways it can stop us from being with ourselves, but also giving ourselves what we need and giving ourselves the attention that we perhaps used to give ourselves when we didn't have something that was going to give us an instant dopamine hit any minute.
No, that's agreed because I think that it's very rare, isn't it, for people to kind of think of the smartphone or the tablet or whatever as being addictive tools that actually do kind of divide our attention between, I guess, people that are around us, our loved ones or our friends or our colleagues or whatever, or even nature, like you say. Kind of, and then you've got this digital device that really brings us in, and not a lot of people really do take the time to think that actually, wow, this is actually really addictive device. And is that something that you work on as well with the groups that you take away to the Unplugged weekend? Do you do like much discussions and I guess work around digital literacy, as it were?
Yeah, well, naturally, discussions around people's digital use obviously come up because mainly people are just so shocked at what an amazing time they're having. And after the first few hours, people don't tend to miss their devices. We do some workshops around how much time people spend with a screen versus how much time they spend without a screen. And people are usually quite shocked when they realise it's up to 10, 12 hours a day that they're doing things in a screen, and they've only managed to tally up 2 hours of activities that they've done without a screen, and that might have been going for a run and having a shower. So yeah, naturally those kind of conversations come up, but more and more I think we don't tell people what to do. We give people tips and advice, but people come up with things themselves. We had one group that they all decided they weren't going to delete Facebook, but they were going to delete the Facebook app from their phone so that they had to choose when they went onto it, and they didn't get lost in it, and they could still look out the window when they're on the bus rather than just going on Facebook and things like that. So yeah, people understand what they're doing. Sometimes I think they need to be taken out of it and to do something like because we're not anti-technology. We don't think people should live without technology, but just having that short break from it can help you to be more mindful of how you manage it.
So I'm really interested, Lucy. Like, how did you even know? Do you think before this first retreat that you went on, did you know that you actually needed? Did you know that you needed to unplug yourself, or was it just the realization of being in the middle of the nowhere without any connectivity that actually, well, this is what I really needed?
No, I didn't know I needed to unplug at all. I just knew that I needed time for myself, but I didn't know why. And the technology thing was a realization when I got there, I think, and when I got back, because I remember feeling very nervous at the end of the week. I didn't want to switch my phone on because I didn't want to know what was waiting for me on it. But I was terrible before then. I remember looking back, I would be on my phone with friends. I remember going on a first date and checking my work emails. And I would just never do that now. But I just noticed it was just automatic.
It's and I guess because you use the word being mindful of your technology use, and like you say, you only kind of grab yourself and you only become attentive of your behavior with technology, I guess, when you're doing it. No, like it's like, oh my God, I'm looking at my phone and I should be present with this person, or in nature. But the reason I asked about your experience about this is, do you think the other people that you work with at the Unplugged weekend, do they kind of have the same thing? Do they only realize that they need to be unplugged kind of quite late in the day, if you like?
Yeah, sometimes. There are some people that are really engaged and they've started getting unplugged and they want to explore it in more depth and they come to us. Sometimes we've had people that just said it looked like something different and I wanted a change. One lady used to go on a lot of boot camp holidays where you do lots of exercise, but she said, I just wanted to try something different. And I thought, you know what, this looks really chilled out and really nice and something different.
Cool.
And then she came and then she explored it and then she discovered a bit more about it. One girl was a blogger, so she's a fashion blogger and she works online all the time, and she probably got the most out of it. She's got thousands of friends online, massive following, and she just said after the weekend she just felt really, really good about herself because she felt like she'd experienced something really real.
Of course, like we have this thing. We have like the Unplugged weekend, and
Yep.
people come and they kind of go to this beautiful setting, and they do this work, and they feel amazing afterwards. And like you say, maybe some people are reluctant to turn back on their devices. But how then do you advise that people then live in a digitized world? When it isn't, I guess, always possible to just take off or just to unplug or whatever.
Well, we never advise people not to use technology because it's amazing. Even my cousin's just had a baby and she's got a baby monitor that connects to her phone and she can see the baby while it's upstairs, and that's great. And we're not anti-technology. But one thing I would say, especially, I guess, relating to the baby, we would encourage people not to use their phones in front of their children. So you're giving the message to the child that the phone, you want to give your phone more attention than you're giving them. We would say to people to just, a lot of it is about mindfulness and being in the moment. If you're out with your friends, why are you messaging other people? Why are you trying to connect with other people through Facebook when you have real life physical people here? Same for families. If you're sitting around the dinner table, just don't have devices at the table, because that's your time for spending quality time together. In terms of work, there's a lot of things that you can do to help your productivity, like rather than sit in your email inbox all day, you can just check it in the morning and then maybe check it once in the afternoon and once before you go home. And that way you're not constantly just being responsive, because when you're constantly responding to information that's coming in, it's harder for you to output, especially if you need to be creative in your work. So if you can work away from the screen to do some tasks, why do you need to be sitting in front of a computer all day? Can't you go and sit somewhere else and do a bit on a piece of paper to give yourself a rest and give your mind the chance to think in different ways? Because when we're looking at a screen and when we're doing things with our hands, it's activating different parts of the brain. So we're going to trigger different thoughts, and we're going to have more creative ideas.
It's interesting. Like, it sounds that like everything that you've just spoken about there, and I guess from the things that I've seen on the Unplugged weekend, it all sounds to be very physical. You know, like very movement oriented. Like you were saying, you do the meditation and you do the yoga, and you're talking about, you know, when you're doing tasks, to actually do it somewhere else. You know, get up and physically get up and go and do it somewhere else. And it sounds like what you're talking about a lot is like physicality is really important. You know, like you're really like there's a whole emphasis on movement and
Yeah.
not being still.
Yeah, exactly. The physicality thing, that's a really, really good point. And that's something that we talk about a lot, especially. So, as humans, we have the potential within us to experience miracles. For example, if you fall in love, the way that you feel is a result of all of the hormones and the neurotransmitters in your body, and chemical reactions are making you feel a certain way. And all of it, like biologically, we have the privilege to be able to feel things physically with other people, but also on our own. We're lucky enough to be able to have taste buds that let us taste, and we can smell things and we can see things and we can touch things and we can feel things. And, you know, we're very complex beings. So to cram all that down into a flat screen, it seems like it's a shame, because we're missing out on all of those things. So if you've got a baby, why would you stare at your iPad when you could be connecting with your baby? And a lot of couples now, a study that I read about said that a lot of couples, when they're taking their devices to bed, they're having less sex, and they're not connecting with each other as much. They're not staring into each other's eyes because they're constantly staring at the screens. And then we're missing out on we're human beings, and we need these human connections, and we need to release all of the chemicals within our body. And we have pheromones that attract us to other people. That there are so many different things that our bodies do subconsciously that we don't realize, that if we replace all of these actions with screens, we're not going to get to experience them.
And it also sounds as well that you're talking that what people really need is not so much training to be in digital, but like almost like there's like a unlearning of behavior. You know, like I know that you do one of the things that you do right at the beginning of the weekend is it device confiscation
Yeah,
ceremony? Is that right?
yeah, yeah.
But this whole kind of like learning to move again, like kind of with the physicality, and like learning to be without digital devices, like learning to be around other people and learn social, not learn social cues, but relearn social cues.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot of kind of unlearning and relearning that goes on.
Yeah, that's interesting what you say. One of the funniest things, we did a workshop a few months ago, and we took people's devices off them at the door, but the workshop didn't start immediately because we were having time for other people to arrive. So people just in a room by themselves. And normally what everyone would do is just sit there and look at their phone because it's a little bit awkward and they don't know what to say to the other people because they don't know them. But it forces people to interact with each other. And it was quite funny because like one person in particular was just like really couldn't handle it. He kept like walking around and then he'd be getting a drink and then he'd be doing this and that and just anything to distract him from having to connect with people. And I suppose that can take I guess if you're talking about workplaces, even families and friends, if you're communicating always digitally, then you're maybe not as confident as communicating face to face, and you miss things, like facial expressions and people's moods and things.
Do you see this being then a bigger issue as people grow up digitally? They grow up with phones. They grow up being more used to texting than they are to speaking. Do you see that, or not? Do you think actually that that tech and that basically the technology is just going to be basically a balance, that we are going to be able to understand social cues and physical cues, etc., but the technology just supports us. It supports us being human.
I think it's a problem. I do think it's a barrier to emotional intelligence and how we socially interact. Especially, I met a child the other day, and when I met him, he was just staring at his phone. I mean, I know children are shy, but he just couldn't speak to me. He just wanted to play on his phone, and that's fine for a child to be immersed in a game or a toy. But then if he grows up and he never has to communicate face to face, that he's gonna miss out on, like I said, the facial expressions and the non-verbal communication. Because I think around 80% of communication is non-verbal. It's body language and tone of voice and things. And especially for young people growing up now, for example, a baby. I mean, we remember when we didn't have smartphones, but children, when they grow up now, then they probably don't even know what a map is, because to them, whenever their parents have needed to know where to go, they'll just look at their device. And I guess you might think that they grow up thinking there's this device, a handheld device, and it does everything, because mom and dad are always looking at that and that's what they do everything with. And then one day I'll have one, and then that's how I'll live my life as well. Which is not to say that, things like Google Maps aren't useful. It's just that there's so many other ways and other things that we could be learning.
So, Lucy, what are some of the effects that people have had being on an unplugged weekend or being unplugged, and then going back into the workplace? Like, what are some of the what are some of the effects that basically have happened from this? Like, do people experience an uptake in productivity or creativity, or do they find themselves just being immediately, taken back into the digital river of life?
I think it varies. We had some feedback. One guy said he started to turn his phone off at work so that he could be more productive, and he wasn't distracted, and he found himself being a lot more productive and getting more done. One woman got back to us, and she said it's really improved her family life, because she started doing a board game night where they all sit around and just play board games. And the main thing she did was ban devices at the dinner table, so that that's their family time when they're talking to each other. And she was very happy with the changes that she'd made, and she felt like it was very positive impact on her family. Some people have got back to us and said they just didn't realise how long they were sitting in front of a computer, and that they've realised that that's not for them. And it was only just by realising that they realised they perhaps weren't in the job that they wanted to be in, which I can relate to as well. I remember having an office job, and I just physically felt chained to the computer screen. And I didn't know at that time that it was because I suppose it all ties into work culture as well, but I do feel a lot freer now that I've learned how to balance my use of technology.
So, Lucy, where can people find out more about you and your work?
The best place to find out information about Unplugged Weekend will be the website. You can sign up to the mailing list from the website, and whenever we have retreats and workshops, we will let our community know first. So you can sign up there. And we've also got a Facebook page and a Twitter. So you can join in and meet other people that way as well.
Fantastic. And I'll absolutely make links to all of those in the show notes.
Oh,
But
thanks.
no problem. But Lucy Pearson, thank you so much for spending time with us this afternoon. I really appreciate you coming on.
No problem. Thanks, Lawrence. Thanks for having us.
I hope you enjoyed that episode with Lucy Pearson. Understanding the impact digital detoxing can have on our personal and professional lives was especially enlightening. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're really grateful for you downloading this and are looking forward to being with you again next week.